Dozens of Texas Democratic legislators have fled their state to try to stop a Republican plan to redraw the state's congressional district maps. And dire videos of Israeli hostages held in Gaza have renewed calls for their release. Good morning, I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. More than 50 Texas state Democratic legislators have left their state. They're trying to prevent the Texas Republican-led House chamber from having enough votes to conduct business. The Democratic lawmakers say they're trying to stop state Republicans from redrawing a congressional map that would give the GOP 5 more seats in the U.S. House from Texas. That move would affect the U.S. Congress. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider reports some of the Texas lawmakers have gone to Illinois.
The Democrats fled Texas to prevent Republicans from adopting a map as part of a special session that President Trump and Republicans hope will help them to retain their majority in midterm elections. House Democratic Caucus Chair Jean Wu spoke in a Chicago suburb, flanked by fellow House Democrats and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
If Donald Trump is allowed to do this, if he is allowed to once again cheat and get away with it, there is no stopping this. This will spread across the country.
In a statement, Governor Abbott said that if those Democrats who have broken quorum do not return to the Capitol immediately, he will invoke a ruling by State Attorney General Ken Paxton to have them expelled from the Texas House. For NPR News, I'm Andrew Schneider in Houston.
President Trump has issued updated tariff rates on dozens of countries, plus the European Union. These will take effect later this week. Last night, Trump explained what he is seeking.
I'm not looking for leverage. I'm looking for fairness. We want reciprocal as much as possible.
But some economic organizations, such as the Yale Budget Lab, are warning the effects of these tariffs will cost American households. The lab estimates the average U.S. household cost of President Trump's tariffs will be $2,400 this year. Clothes and textiles will see the greatest effect. A White House economic advisor says that President Trump has done the right thing in firing the head of the office responsible for measuring statistics in the U.S. labor market. Kevin Hassett told NBC's Meet the Press this firing comes after the agency issued a weak jobs report for July.
The president wants his own people there so that when we see the numbers, they're more transparent and more reliable. And if there are big changes and big revisions, we expect more big revisions for the jobs data in September, for example, then we want to know why. We want people to explain it to us.
But an advocacy group for the agency says claims of rigged numbers by the agency are baseless. The fate of millions of dollars worth of U.S.-purchased contraceptives stored in Belgium is unclear. The Trump administration announced earlier it would destroy the stockpile rather than deliver them as planned. Terry Schultz reports the contraceptives were intended for low- and middle-income countries.
The family planning supplies worth more than $9 million were meant for women in war zones, refugee camps, and other crisis situations. They were warehoused in Belgium while they awaited distribution by the U.S. Agency for International Development. When President Trump disbanded the agency, the contraceptives were left in limbo. The Trump administration's plan to incinerate the stockpile in France drew objections from the Belgian and French governments, along with NGOs. The international aid organization Doctors Without Borders calls it unconscionable that the U.S. would destroy the supplies, saying this would have devastating consequences for needy communities where it works. For NPR News, I'm Terry Schultz.
In Israel, people are reacting to 2 new videos of hostages that have surfaced. These show the 2 hostages in dire conditions. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley says many Israelis are demanding that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu bring the hostages home.
There were hopes that the desperate condition of these hostages in the videos might push him to come to a deal with Hamas to get them out, but last night, a person familiar with the details and not authorized to speak publicly told NPR that among Israeli officials, quote, there's a growing understanding that Hamas is not interested in a deal, and therefore the prime minister is pushing for the release of the hostages through military defeat. But the hostage families say any military action to free them would be a death sentence.
NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reporting. Defense officials from Thailand and Cambodia are meeting in Malaysia today. Officials from both countries hope to maintain a ceasefire along their disputed border in Southeast Asia. Both countries reached a truce last week after some of the worst fighting between them in more than a decade. Adam Hancock is following the story from Singapore.
These mediation talks will take place in Kuala Lumpur after Thailand requested a neutral venue for the latest round of negotiations. Defence ministers and military leaders from both sides will sit down in the Malaysian capital for the next 4 days. The talks are part of the ceasefire agreement, which was brokered in late July. It put an end to days of heavy fighting, which left at least 43 people dead and hundreds of thousands displaced. Local media have reported that some residents have started to return to their homes, although many are still living in shelters and waiting for the all clear. Officials from a number of countries across Southeast Asia will also be present at the talks, as well as defence representatives from the US and China. For NPR News, I'm Adam Hancock in Singapore.
A group of Boeing workers that builds fighter jets in the U.S. has gone on strike. Last week, more than 3,000 unionized workers rejected a proposed 4-year contract with Boeing. Now they're off the job. Last year, a separate group of Boeing workers in the same union went on strike for more than 7 weeks. Actress Loni Anderson has died in Los Angeles at the age of 79. She was one of the stars of the 1970s and 80s sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati. Steve Futterman has more.
She was the platinum blonde receptionist on WKRP, who often was the smartest one at a struggling radio station.
Would you like to see the big guy?
The big guy?
The skipper, the chief, the head honcho, the jerk who runs this place?
Her voluptuous body was often part of the comedy bits, but Anderson insisted that her character be both glamorous and intelligent. Anderson made guest appearances on dozens of other shows and in movies. In the cult comedy film A Night at the Roxbury, she plays the mother of the 2 main characters. Anderson was married 4 times. Her tumultuous third marriage to actor Burt Reynolds made them both popular figures on the covers of supermarket tabloids. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
And I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News in Washington.